Welcome back to another episode of Reelz You Can Feel. Okay, today's movie is gonna be the Lee Daniels picture, The Butler, directed by Lee Daniels. So I'm gonna give you a little summary as always, and then I'm gonna give you my perspective. So here's a little summary of the movie, and I hope you guys enjoy. The Butler, directed by Lee Daniels. Cecil Gaines, played by Forest Whitaker, a black man who serves as a White House butler for 3 decades, witnessing major historical events and the civil rights movement from a unique perspective. The film, loosely based on the life of Eugene Allen, explores themes of race, family, and politics through Cecil's life and his strained relationship with his activist son, Louis, played by David Olowo. Early life. Cecil grows up on a plantation in the 1920s. His father, played by rapper David Banner, is killed on a plantation for approaching the white landowner who abused his wife, played by Mariah Carey. His mother becomes unresponsive to the abuse as Cecil learns to serve his white landowners in the house on the plantation and eventually escapes that life. Cecil then comes across a bakery in the night, which is closed. He breaks in through the window where he's looking for food and shelter. He then gets discovered by the bakery's owner worker who watches the store. The bakery worker, known as Maynard, played by Clarence Williams III, sharpens Cecil's house serving skills by teaching him how to serve white people in the segregated times in the USA. He learned how to shine shoes, to serving drinks to the higher ups of political social status without giving an opinion on racism, which was rampant around those times. Rise to the White House. Cecil learns proper service skills and lands a job as a White House butler. He becomes known for being calm, professional, and discreet. He serves presidents from the Civil Rights era through 1980s. Cecil's wife, played by Oprah Winfrey, struggles with loneliness in his long absences. Cecil believes in quiet change from inside the system. His son Louis believes in fighting the system openly. So that was the summary of the movie The Butler. Now here's my perspective. Cecil was a humble man that came from humble beginnings. He learned to keep his mouth quiet because back in the 1920s and 30s, even though black people were flourishing in these times, we still had to mind what we said to white folk, because if we didn't, we can lose our job, our home, or even our lives. So Cecil did what he had to do to survive and feed his family. He served white people without any outlook that was actually going on in the world, and that is where him and his son Louis bump heads. Louis grew up during the Civil Rights Movement and the Black Panther movement, where black Americans were speaking up about the mistreatment of white racists and started marches, sit-ins, and freedom riders during this Martin Luther King era. Louis was vocal about the mistreatment to where his father Cecil wasn't. Like I said, Cecil was taught to hold his tongue and to bow his head, but Louis was rebelling. They often bump heads because they didn't see eye to eye. Cecil Gaines also had another son named Charlie, but Charlie wanted to fight for his country, not fight his country. That was his words. So even though he didn't agree with Louis' decisions, he still had his big brother's back. This movie taught me that no matter how big the job or big the social status is of other people, if you have to swallow your pride and dignity in order to dim your light and humble yourself, then maybe you're in the wrong place. Louis has taught me to fight for what you believe in, fight for what's right, and eventually you will get the results you are looking for. Even Cecil came to his senses after watching his son at a protest about injustice for black folks. Cecil also taught me resilience. Learn how to work with pride and dignity of taking care of family. I don't agree with how the choice, I don't agree with some of the choices he made, like overlooking the racism that was in the White House at the time he was there, but I respect the sacrifices he made for his family so they could have a good life. And even though Lewis didn't agree with his father's choice of work, he understood he did it for his family. Sometimes you have to eat humble pie to live comfortably, but it shouldn't cost you your dignity. Now, this movie was pretty good to me. It taught me how to stand up for what's right. You know, like it may not be working at the time that you think, but eventually it will come a time where you will win and you will succeed. This movie made me feel proud to be a Black American because even though I don't go too much with the civil rights side of just eating humble pie, taking it and take spit in your face and all that, I'm going more the Black Panther route, because it seemed a little bit more effective when they were doing their work, you know. And the civil rights movement just kind of taught my people to turn the other cheek. Where in this day and age, we're getting sick and tired of turning the other cheek. So, yeah, no more laying down, I guess. But this was a good movie. It taught me about resilience and just to stand up for what's right and do what you feel is right and do what you believe in, especially if it's right and it's gonna help your people survive and succeed. But I also understand where Cecil was coming from his point of view because look, he had to put food on the table. And that was his way of dealing with it. Like he kept close to home, but he was humble about it. And in the end, he eventually came to his senses, and he was in his first protest. I mean, he got arrested in his first protest with his son. So at the end, it all worked out. But just fight for what you believe in, especially if it's right. Especially if it's right. And that's my perspective of the day. I hope you enjoyed it. This movie is called The Butler, directed by Lee Daniels, and they have some amazing cast members in it. So I advise you to go check this movie out. I believe it came out 2013, 2014. But I hope you enjoyed. I'll be back with some movies. This ain't the last of it. I don't know exactly which movie I'm going to do next, but I'm going to do one. I'm thinking about Sinners. But everybody gave their perspective. I ain't giving mine yet. I'm thinking about Sinners. That might be, but I might hear something different. But stay tuned. Alright, peace. Hello.